So for our fourth and final game maker talk today, we have Brenda Brathwaite. Hopefully most of you have heard of her Mechanic is the Message series, a series of 6 non-digital games that she's working on. Train, which is the first to, we'll say, premiere from the series, is in the gallery. If you have not played Train yet, you really should go over there at lunchtime today. It's going to be leaving Atlanta this afternoon. So this will be your last opportunity for the foreseeable future on this side of the country to play Train, because there's only one of them. But anyway, today Brenda's going to talk to us about her design process with one of the new games in the series. So, Brenda.
Thanks, everybody. My name's Brenda Brathwaite. Today I'm going to talk about a game called One Falls for Each of Us. It's the fourth game in this series of 6 that I'm making. And I should let you know I'm in a foul mood. I mean, honest to God, I'm in a horrible mood. Which, if you know me, like, I usually have issues with laughing. I can't seem to take pictures without starting to laugh for no reason at all. And a dear friend of mine reminded me I was exactly like this when I finished Train. And so I finished this game on Saturday, and it's an odd space to be in, which I'm going to describe as I go through this. So this is a game called One Falls for Each of Us. And I just want to give you a disclaimer before I do this. I'm really anxious. I've never talked about my design process before. Not with these games. I mean, I've certainly talked about it with the Wizardry series and the Jagged Alliance series and a bunch of different series I've worked on. But not this one. And the process for this is really different. So, you know, like, here's a Facebook game that I worked on, and this is One Falls for Each of Us over there. That's the beginning of it. So I feel this anxiety because this is an incredibly private process. My friend Ian Schreiber has told me that I'm a black box designer. You know, it's sort of, well, I made a game, and here's an idea I had, and there's where I finished, and, you know, good luck if I tell you anything in between. And if you're one of, like, the 3 people that I tend to talk to about games, which would require your name to be either John or Ian, you would know this. So I just want to bring up Erykah Badu, who may not seem to have a place here, but she has this great song called Tyrone, which she sort of improv'd on stage, and she says, "I'm an artist and I'm sensitive about my shit." So I just want you to know that. Anyway. So where this game starts, so it starts in the deep south, where we are now. And for me, this is about the Trail of Tears is the forced migration. It's so funny, the words that we use, right? This isn't a migration. These people were told to GTFO, and they weren't too happy about it, you know? And nowadays, I just can't even imagine us pulling something like that nowadays, so it happens all over the world. It is one of 6 games, as John mentioned, in the Mechanic is the Message series. And largely this series was, this is the 4th game in it, and this series is where I was trying to see if I could express through game mechanics difficult topics. The first one was, and this one hasn't been released yet publicly. I'm going to release it at Harvey Smith's house, because I can. And I like that in Harvey and Lee invited me to do that, so I will eventually be releasing this game there. And this game is Chronicles, a Middle Passage. You may recognize the formation of the boat. This game was done originally with my daughter, who went to school and came home and discussed what sounded like black people going on a cruise from Africa. And this was after Black History Month, and that's what she got out of it. So we prototyped it, and these are some of Maze's people that she painted, the little families that she created, and these families were ripped apart by the Middle Passage. So after I made that game, I made another game. This one's called Shiakan Lot. This is my family's history. This is a Cromwellian invasion of Ireland, which sets them up for all kinds of hell, famine. They've got no land, they've got no money, they lose their culture. And I was very fascinated with the concept of Gaelic games. The Gaelic games were used to reintroduce the Gaelic culture to Ireland, and I thought it would be great if we could do something like that here in America, so that maybe being Irish meant more than I like to fight, which I do, and I like to drink, which I don't. Anyway, I did say I was in a foul mood. So this game, this is my great-grandfather, Paddy Donovan, which is about as Irish a name as you can get. So this game is based on my family's migration. And then the next game was Train. In this game, if you have not already played it, I won't tell you what it's about, though you can tell everything you need to know to tell you what it's about is right there in front of you. Train got a lot of success. I guess it had a lot of success if you want to talk about how many people have heard about it, at the very least, and that's exciting to me. I mean, in a nutshell, it's a game about complicity and regret in questioning the rules that are put before you, and when you just blindly follow them. And for Train, well, I guess this tells you what the game is about. This picture, wow, this picture is still incredibly disturbing to me. I stared at this picture for about an hour a day, and this is the first time I've shown which picture it was that I stared at least an hour a day. And I asked, like, these are my kids. Pretend these are my kids. I have twins. I have 5-year-old twins. Pretend these are my kids. And how did I feel when I cut this star for them to wear? Those are not sheriff badges. Those are the stars of David. And how did I feel about those kids? These children were eventually killed in an extermination camp. And I spent a lot of time with them. I wanted to feel what their mother felt. And I wanted to feel this game. You know, when I made the Wizardry series, or even, you know, something incredibly trivial like the Playboy game, which was not a good game, but when I made that game, I still own over 600 copies of Playboy. I researched that game. I know everything there is to know about Hugh Hefner, or anything I would want to know anyway. I'm sure there's stuff I don't want to know about Hugh Hefner. But so I do that with digital games. I do that with commercial games all the time. I research them exhaustively, you know. And so why wouldn't I do the same thing with these? So this is One Falls for Each of Us. And as I've already mentioned, it's about the Trail of Tears, or what is, you know, like we would never name something like this way nowadays. It's about the Indian Removal Act, you know, which makes it sort of sound like, I'm sorry, you have to be removed from where you, it's just an absurd name. And these people were moved from these lands that they'd occupied for, you know, God knows how many years, hundreds, thousands of years, and they were moved to what is now present-day Oklahoma. And this is just a picture that I just thought was beautiful. It's one of the ones that I look at when I'm working on this game. And really thinking, like, what would it mean, like, if somebody showed up, like, how would we react today if I don't know where the hell all you people are from, but if people just showed up and said, get the hell out of Georgia. Get out. I'm sorry. We're taking it over. I don't care if you've been here for generations. It doesn't matter to me. Just get out. Go here. Go to Oklahoma. You know, I lived in Georgia, and I've been through Oklahoma, and I'd rather stay here. No offense to Oklahoma, although I just clearly paid it an offense. Oh, well. Anyway, so there are two other games in the series. One is called Mexican Kitchen Workers. And Mexican Kitchen Workers, there's a line I heard. It was a guy complaining about his white front serving staff and say it, and his line was, now take my Mexican kitchen workers. Those are people who have a good work ethic and know how to work. And all I heard was this term Mexican kitchen workers, and it floated up, and I swear it felt like it was in neon. And I thought, I'm making a game about that. I didn't even know what the hell the game was going to be about at the time. But now I do. It's about illegal immigration, and it's about this, you know, I don't support illegal immigration, except our businesses clearly do, and this country wouldn't run without it. And it was, you know, before the Mexicans, it was the Irish, and before the Irish, I mean, it was, you know, tons of immigrants. And the next game that I'm making is one called City Soleil, which is about gang violence and warfare in day life in Haiti. I came up with the idea for this game and the early prototype of this game. Both of these games are in various stages of prototype before the earthquake happened. And just in case you're curious, this was not something that was new. So the design challenge, you know, it's evident, right? This is about difficult topics. And there's you know, I selected them all ahead of time. And, you know, why tragedy? I've been asked this. Or as one of my friends likes to say, Brenda makes games that make people cry. And let's see, Adam Hill, I wonder if you're here. Adam Hill put this on Twitter the other day, which I thought was pretty good. Forced me to make games that are happy. So you know I've made two. Well, no, not two. One is still unhappy. But I did make one happy non-digital game with a friend of mine. I just haven't released it yet. But yes, I make games that make people cry, including me. Anyway. So it all goes back, ironically, to this conversation I have with Zig Jackson. Now, the fact that he's a Native American has nothing to do with this. Zig Jackson is an amazing photographer. His stuff is just beautiful. And I had a conversation with him. Actually, no, it wasn't me. I was there. And he and another photographer were talking about whether or not you would take the picture. And what, you know, any of you who are photographers, you have this amazing luxury, painters, whatever you are. You can paint anything. You can photograph anything. But in games, like I can't tell you how many times, you made a game about what? What the hell did you make that game about? Like, seriously, you made a game about the Holocaust? Well, you know, Wolfenstein is about the Holocaust, right? I mean, I'm not the only one who made a World War II game. But people are shocked, right? That people are shocked. Oh, well, there we are. Thank you. People are shocked that I would make games about these difficult subjects, and I think games are, you can paint about them, you can do all kinds of stuff. So they were talking about this, and I was really inspired. This is one of my favorite pictures by Zig, and this is called Indian Photographing, Tourists Photographing Indian. This is another one. This comes from his Degradation series. And this one just blows me the hell away. So just imagine, right? Like, this is like, you can see, like, wow, that dude really looks like, well, you know, that, remember that commercial hurting the 1970s commercial? For some reason, I'm forgetting what the hell it was about. Obviously, I'm only remembering part of it. But, you know, you see this guy, and he's like this amazing Native American dude. But, like, just imagine if you replaced him. So let's go take our pictures with the Indian. Just imagine for 1 second if that's a black guy. Can you just imagine? Like, come here, white kids. Look, a black person. Let's take a picture. Like, what? You know, it's like, it's, how did this happen? How is that okay? You know, and you know, this culture isn't for spectacle, right? So anyway, Zig, there was this one thing he said. There was a mass killing on Indian reservation. And Zig went to take pictures, and he found he just couldn't do it. It was too painful. And I really was just so blown away by this conversation and wondered, like, why couldn't we do this with games too? And it really opened my eyes to the possibility that games have. Now, I'm going to talk at the end a little bit about something that actually opened my eyes earlier to this before even the Zig conversation, but I just wanted to at least allude to that. So, you know what, you can take, like, just pick any sample tragic topic you like, right? And you can find one of those about it. It doesn't matter, you know, people are horrified, some people, I shouldn't generalize. A few people have been horrified that I made Train. And those same people are not horrified that Spielberg made Schindler's List. You know, games have this ability to do these things. And so we get sort of upset. I shouldn't, again, generalize, but people get upset sometimes about games tackling these difficult subjects, except Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico has these convenient little slaves which show up every turn, depending on whether you take them or not. And these guys, you know, help you cultivate crops in the land. So, you know, we don't necessarily have a problem with that. Or, just to go back to One Falls for Each of Us again, you know, this is Sid Meier's version of One Falls for Each of Us. And as long as they're decently abstracted, they don't make us uncomfortable. But this is Super Columbine Massacre. And when you just go like, hey, look, here's what happened. Wow, this is a little too close for comfort. And I find even interesting in my own games, right? You know, the Irish game, Shiacon Lot, you know, this was about 1 million people were displaced because of this, and tons of people died. In fact, add all this stuff together, it's just nuts. But the people aren't as upset by that game as they are by something that's more immediate. Just to give you like a clear example of this, does anybody recognize these two games? See, one is, I think, Modern Warfare. Yeah. So one is 6 Days in Fallujah. Oh my goodness, how could they? How could they do that? A game that looks roughly the same with a slightly different tint, less brown, that's okay, but you know, this one is not, and it's literally, the mechanics underneath are probably identical. You know, and as I said, you know, time provokes things, so Train is more challenging than my other game. And some things just in general with this series, I don't care when I finish it. It doesn't matter. How long is it going to take? I don't know. When am I going to I don't know when I'm going to finish it. How am I going to distribute them in my car? Maybe. I have a feeling, which you find out, that I have no idea what I'm going to do with this game when I'm done, because it's just going to be enormous. I don't care what topic necessarily I cover. The topics will show up. I don't know how I'm going to package it, but people ask me these questions all the time, because games, we have this belief that they must be commercial and that they must be duplicated. I've been asked, like, I come back and say things like, well, but Pollock didn't make 12 copies of Lavender Mist. Like, and I'm not saying I'm a Pollock, although I've certainly probably had my moments, both drunk and angry. But I don't, you know, I think games can be more than that. Anyway, so I liked the design exercise. This is what it originally started out to be. I just wanted to see if I could make games about this stuff. And then I promised some fellow game designers, Olivier's here, who was at Project Horseshoe, and they said, you've got to talk about these games, after I talked to them as friend designers who like forced me to promise I would do this, which of course if you're a game designer, you have to now follow the rules or they'll hunt you down mercilessly. So I agreed to talk about it at this tiny little conference. There's a reporter for The Escapist in the room, and this is how these games sort of escape. So very shortly thereafter, this shows up. And I was like, oh my God, so I literally called my best friend crying on the phone, like, because people have said, you know, wizardry sucked or whatever. They've said things like that. Playboy should be shot or whatever, you know. And yeah, it probably should have been. Wizardry did not suck. Playboy could have been shot. But anyway, so I see this, and this just felt like, wow, this was so incredibly direct. And then it got the Vanguard Award at Indiecade, so I felt better. Anyway, so approaching tragedy. I just want to give you some general disclaimers. So this is just a reminder, Erica Badu, I'm sensitive about my shit. This really makes me feel oddly exposed. It just does. Anyway, so I believe, and this is different from my commercial games. So these games already exist. Like Train was there. It was there already. It's not a game that I made. It already existed. And when I get to the system, I'll explain that a little better. I believe all these 6 games, they already exist, and it's my job to find out how to do it. You know, how I've got to find the game, and I sort of believe that if I put up the necessary intellectual dowry, that the game will reveal itself to me. When I do enough research, when I think about the space enough, when I see the pictures that I'm supposed to see, I'll see the game. And this game showed up to me on Saturday, finished in my head. Literally woke up Saturday morning, and there it was. And this, feels like this real duality in me. There's me, and then there's the game. And it feels very much like 2 separate entities. And I don't feel that way at all. I'm working on, I don't know, 3 or 4 commercial games right now. 4 commercial games right now, which also could explain my I'm kidding. So I'm working on a bunch of commercial games, and I don't feel that way about them. I don't feel like they're separate things. I feel very intimately connected to them. And with these games, I also, so this is Pollock. This is a painting called The Deep. This is my favorite Pollock painting. And I feel kind of like this person circling this canvas, right? Like trying to find, like, how do I get into this One Falls for Each of Us? I know what it's about. I knew the name first, you know, and I was thinking the Trail of Tears, and the one tear falls for each of them, although the name sort of takes a turn later. But I'm sort of circling the idea and trying to find a way in and how I'm going to represent these things. And just a reminder, this is not at all like how I circle something like this ranch game here. So the game starts on my drive back from Indiecade. I feel like it's ready. I'm ready to start thinking about it. I sort of clear my head of all the other games that are in it. And I'm driving back, and this is a perfect opportunity because I'm driving across the country, and I'm looking at many spectacles, and I'm not using the term spectacles in a complimentary way, of Indian life. You know, these big powwows, these gigantic teepees as tall as the room. You know, come by your moccasins. If you've ever ridden across 10, 20, or 40, you've seen these things. And I mean, can you just take any other culture? I don't care what culture it is. Next time you go to CVS, take a look at the beer necklaces that they have out for my culture. I can assure you the Irish people are about a lot more than drinking. And so as I'm driving across the country, I'm thinking about this. I'm not really constrained by time or material. And I was thinking about actually doing a spirit quest for this, which would involve 4 days without drinking or well, no, not necessarily, or eating at least, and really trying to feel that space and trying to be true to it. And then I got terrified by that guy who put people in the sweat lodge and they died. So I got scared and decided not to do that. But I literally spent the whole trip back not listening to music, minimal phone conversations, and just thinking about this game, thinking about the space of this game, how I would feel if I were forced to leave the territory that I'd always known and always loved. And so, I mentioned I'm a game designer, so I see everything as a system. And one of the things that I've really discovered is that this is an absolute truth. You cannot have human-on-human tragedy without a system, especially not at scale. The Holocaust couldn't have happened by accident. You know, the Trail of Tears did not happen by accident. Slavery did not happen by accident. These things were planned and they were designed. And these are some of the results of that, and that's incredibly unfortunate. And so for the Trail of Tears, it was a question. I had to find the system in this. How the hell did this happen? What were these people doing? Where were they going? What happened? How did these Indians get removed? And did they all get removed? Did they want to leave? And so I start asking myself certain questions like, how do we remove them? And how did they respond? These are just a few, and these are the questions I'm thinking as I'm driving across the country. Now, if you're a good game designer at this point in time, you're thinking, Brenda, that's fabulous. Did you do any research into this? The answer is at this point, no, I don't, because I want to approach the game like the average player approaches it. By the time I'm done the game, I've researched it to the point that I'm in the mood I'm in now. You spend as much time as I have thinking about what the white man did to Native Americans, and just as a disclaimer, I am not Native American. And it's upsetting, it's friggin' horrible, and they're all tied together like this. So I did spend, a ton of time with this, and just to give you a bit of this, there's everything you need to know about my family is in that game. Every single thing you need to know about my family. And so now the next question is, once I find the system, once I find it, I have to find out how I'm going to put you into it. And so this is Andrew Jackson, who came up with this fabulous idea in 1830, but he wasn't the first one. I mean, George Washington advocated it. In the name of progress, these Indians had to go. And so now the question is how do I put you into the system? Do I want you to be Andrew Jackson, right? What do I want you to do? So I decide, no, you're going to be the white man. I don't care who you are. In fact, that's not true. If you are Native American, there is a different place for you in the game. And I don't want to talk about that yet because there's some stuff I need to figure out still with that. So I started to make the people. These are the first ones that I made. And I use all the same people in the games just because I like them and I like the way that they feel. But it's actually created this sort of accidental symmetry between the games where the people all feel related to me. And of course we all are. And in this game here, just to go back to this for a second, you are playing the Irish, and you're one of two types of Irish, and you're it sounds silly. It's a two-player game, so you have no choice to play but two types of Irish. And there's an unstoppable English force, so that's how I put the player into this game. In this game, you're either bringing the Jews to their death, or you're saving them. And last night, Simon Ferrari actually found one of the successful win conditions of train, and that's only happened a few times. And by a win, it means nobody was delivered. And now the next thing is I've got to make you complicit, because if I just put you in the system and you're not feeling the system, you don't leave feeling, I don't know, something, anything. Like to go back to Pollock, I look at his paintings as an artifact of his painting experience. And so I want to leave this artifact of a game experience on a player. So now I need to figure out a way to make the player complicit in this particular system. I want, when you move these Indians, I want you to feel that movement. And one of the things that I had done, and again, I was talking to a friend of mine, could have been named John, could have been named Ian, probably was both at some point in time. And John is Ian in Gaelic, by the way. So I was trying to tell him, so here's what I decided to do. I'm actually going to make you displace 17,000 Native Americans. And so it came back 17,000 of, where are they? There they are, 17,000 of those. And I said, yes. And then it grew to 20,000 because I decided that math was probably lying, right? The people who recorded history said, holy shit, how many got moved? Can you just knock that number down a few? So I decided they were lying, so I decided to go to 20,000. And I thought maybe that was more likely. And just to give you, I just want to review this before I go show you a little bit more of the game, is these are the things that I've just said. So find the system, how do I put you in it, and then find a way to make you complicit. And to me, that is absolutely the key. So I start with these guys. And you're playing the white man. There's 4 of you. It's a 4-player game. And I have issues with mathematical patterns, which is a good thing. It's worked very well for me. It's the only game design is one of the few fields that allows you to really have fun with that. So the New World, which is the game about slavery, that's a 1-player game, and the Irish game's a 2-player game. Train's a 3-player game, so it's a 4-player game. And you're basically removing these Indian tribes from their land, and you're doing it in the name of progress. You have certain resources you can spend to advance your civilization, but these advances require you to move certain people. So now, these are some of the people that I can tell you here. Some of these will undoubtedly die. The goal of the game is when the Indians have been relocated, killed, or settlement has been reached, which can, of course, so you basically can agree with them and say, like, look, we don't necessarily want to move, and you can reach some kind of settlement with the Indians. You're free to break it later. You're free to go back on anything you tell them as the white man. So basically, the winner of the game, and winner is, in these disgusting quotes of yuckiness, that's a technical term, who has accumulated the most progress. And I want to say at this point, I still feel like I'm circling the game. Like the game showed up, but it still needs to be balanced. I need to test it. And I also, but the initial set of rules has been written. So this is a lie. It's now 50,000. I'm going to actually make you move all the Indians, every single one of them, which, and maybe some refuse to move, maybe some die, maybe some of you will die in playing the game. So this is, and the question is, you can say, like, 50,000, like, are you F-bombing crazy? Potentially, yes. But I don't care. I don't have to sell this game at Walmart. And this is the only, it would be cheating if I did it another way. I had originally, in fact, made this decision that I was going to get these leather mats, And the leather mats, I was going to put about 1,000 of these Indians on the leather mats, and then that way they would be easier to move. And I thought, but, you know, I wonder if the Trail of Tears, like if they felt like that on the Trail of Tears. Like, you know, let's do this for the convenience of the white man who's playing the game. Screw the white man playing the game. I don't care, right? No, you're going to move. You want to play the Trail of Tears, you're going to move 50,000 friggin' Indians, and you're going to like it. Otherwise, you're going to stay back from it. And I don't have to care whether or not that works. I mean, this is the scale that this game requires. And so the irony is one falls for each of us. I wasn't intending this to be a literal one-to-one, but it is. And again, I'm assuming that the math that was reported about the number of Indians that were moved was a lie. So I have upped it. And the worst thing that can possibly happen is I've gone too high. So this is about 1,000 Indians. And now here's this other weird thing that happens during my design process. I get really freakish about the space that these things are in. A friend of mine came over to visit me, and I'm like, don't touch anything in the kitchen. My kitchen is my kitchen, it's a good thing I can't cook. My kitchen is now off limits because it's taken over by Indians. And my kitchen in my house now is going to be taken over by Indians because there's 50,000 Indians. So I may have to move. But anyway, so there's this other part that occurs to this, and I talked to this with a designer friend of mine on the way out here. In my other games, I'm very aware of what I'm thinking. I'm very in tune with, you know, this is what I need to do, and I need to do this. What is the design problem? And it feels very much in the forefront of my head. And these, I sort of believe the game will talk to me and direct me in the way that it needs to go if I pay attention to it, if I give it the attention it deserves. And so I start just looking for symbolism. And, you know, granted, some of this may seem gratuitous, and I don't care. It is, have I mentioned I'm in a bad mood? And so I look for this. This is a game, the bags that these people come in, these little parts come in. And so I've got these things, and it was interesting because as I'm ripping these things out of the bags after having reached my hand in, and I insist on touching every part of these games and not letting other people touch them until they're done. And why? I don't know. It's just the way I am. And so it was interesting to me when I ripped this bag open, it looked like you might take a bag of meat and rip it open, and I was like, holy shit. You know, because this isn't the color I was going for, but this is, I mean, so this is just a picture of my poor much suffering iPhone that gets to be around all this stuff. But it was interesting. It felt to me like, what were we doing when we took these people from their lands? This is them soaking in, this is the first, I actually posted, I think, this one on Twitter, just to say I had begun actually building the game. And another thing, I never order the parts when I start the game. Everything I tell you today about this game could be a lie when it's done. This is what it's revealed to me up to this point in time. And so we'll see. And I just opened the newspaper to dry these images, to dry them on. And there were people there. And in this, I'll tell you about this picture in a sec, but another page that I had was open to the obituaries, and I didn't want to cover the people's faces because it felt disrespectful. And since this, as you can imagine, you know, making 50,000 Indians is a time-consuming process. And so I looked at these obituary faces and was well aware that some people cut these things out, and they're on their fridge, or they're in their wallet, or they've been framed, and they're loved. And these same exact dead people are also on the bottom of litter boxes. You know, and like what reverence we show to people, how we think about things. I mean, this is a time-consuming process, and so I think about these things when I'm making them. This is a picture of a woman in Haiti. I don't know whether she's alive or dead, but the little guy up top tipped over. You know, and so it was just like, wow, there's this blood on her hands, and, you know, for some reason it turned into blood, which you can see very clearly when I show you what my hand looked like at the time. And so I'm just feeling like, holy shit, and I'm sort of revolted. You know, now I'm really trying to get in touch with my Gaelic roots and deciding that, you know, many people didn't consider the Irish white for a long time, and okay, so good, I don't have to be the white man, this makes me feel a little better, or whatever. And so this is another picture, and so at this point, I've got all these Indians, and the vat of the dye is here. So I bring my slotted spoon across, and I try to use the same batch of dye for the entire thing, and I realize that it's now dripping, and I'm losing some of this dye, except that I also see that it's dripping on this woman's throat. And so it was just, you know, that was just so amazing. Like, I'm starting to really feel this wild interconnectedness of all this tragedy. It's just another picture from this. And then I noticed this headline, and I think, like, seriously, honest to God, Gales nearly let sizable lead slip away at home. Like, no shit. There's the Irish history right there. You know, and St. Mary's, which is where I was baptized and confirmed and everything else growing up in a ridiculously Irish Catholic neighborhood. And, you know, just seeing, like, holy cow, like, what are the odds? It wasn't like I went through and go, can I get some really tragic pages in which to dry these things? It's what I happened to open the newspaper to that day. You know, just another example. And so I'm looking at these pictures and sort of feeling this interconnectedness of it all. And I'm coming back to train. This is a last second edition here. Last night I got so pissed off at this guy. He was in the gallery and he was like making jokes about them, like the Jews, right? And now granted, I know they're little wood figurines. I'm not that delusional. But to me, because I connect with these people. I know these people. I was so happy to be back in Atlanta because I left my games with John Sharp. Named John or Ian, you have to be. And I left my games with John Sharp. I'm just kidding about that. That's a coincidence. I'm actually not that neurotic. I just was so offended that he would talk this way. Like, come on, this game is. I was just amazingly offended that he would do this, and I declared that he couldn't play my game. And then one of Celia's graduate students, his name escapes me, saved me from that. And so these are just a couple more pics I'll show you. This was at night after I finished. I'd finished about 1,000 that evening, and then I realized that it was so late I had to go to bed, and I washed my hands, but I walked around. This is maybe a little hard to see, but I walked around with this red dye, this very Lady Macbeth action going on for about 2 days until I could get this stuff off my hands, and I liked that. I liked that the game stayed with me. People thought it looked really odd, especially because we had a company event the next day, and I'm walking around with red hands. But you know, at a high level, when I'm designing these games, this is what I do. And I should say I expect the game to be finished, when it's done. I mean, it will get finished. It's not going to be a Duke Nukem. And I'll release it in Oklahoma somewhere. I don't know where yet, but it just feels like the right place to me. And again, that could be a lie. You know, I could totally change that. I'm going to do Mexican kitchen workers in Haiti. I don't fly, so Mexican kitchen workers not in Haiti. Sorry, Mexican kitchen workers in California. Although I could do it anywhere, and I'm going to do. I don't know where I'm going to do City Soleil. Maybe I'll start to fly again. So I said I was going to come back to this at the beginning. I debated a lot about doing this. Several years ago, in the fall of 2006, a truly tragic thing happened to me. It's the first time I've talked about it on NPR before, but it was like truly tragic. You know, yes. Well, I'll tell you about it in a sec. And I laid in bed for several days, nearly catatonic. I was attacked, and I laid in bed and I was completely fucked up, to say the least. And I kept watching just reruns of Grey's Anatomy and The Sopranos, just anything to stop my brain from thinking about things. But my brain, being a game designer, wanted to deal with stuff in the only way it knew how, which was systems. And so I really started to think of it lying there about the systems of pain and how it is we do what we do and why we do what we do to other human beings, and why we perpetuate this on one another. And so I started to wonder, like, well, why don't we make games about this? Why don't we make games that heal? Oh, so this is where I'll lose it. So these guys make this game. And in this game, I confront this. I think, fuck. David Jaffe would never say it like that. He would say, fuck. A good, respectable fuck if you're going to say it. And so in this game, I sort of confront this, you know. And it was amazing. It was awesome. It was incredible to do that because I laid there just thinking about this. Nobody wants to see, like, holy shit, Brenda, this is a game about you being attacked, like, you nuts. And it wasn't that, you know. This is all I know. I've been a game designer since I was 15. And it's the only way I know how to explore topics and explore things. And the beauty of this, and it's not just the path, but it's all the games that I've made and games in general. You know, it was interesting, Jason was talking about games helping us to feel emotion. And I screamed for the first time at a game. I felt like such an idiot. With Wolfenstein, it scared me. And then I screamed again with Doom. You know, and we have to remember that fear is an incredibly powerful emotion. And the path helped me confront fear. Thank you, you guys, for that. And with my games, I mean, just to feel such a tremendous passion for games and game design, the incredible ability they have for the dear love of God, let's not constrain the things, and that they have brought me both personal and professional release. And they mean everything to me. And I will stop with that if I have time for questions. Thank you. in a bad mood anymore.
Hi.
Hello.
I really appreciated the transparency and openness with which you shared your work. So
Thank you.
that's an important thing.
Thank everybody named John and Ian for forcing me to do it.
And so watching you speak, I was like, okay, well, this is how, you know, artists need to work, because I'm weird and I'm really into Adrienne Piper. And so in the 70s, she wrote this piece called In Support of Meta Art, and it was in Art Forum, and it talked about how artworks and artists who embrace opacity in their practices are kind of perpetuating all kinds of systems that are destructive to the artist. So if artists make works that aren't overtly political or overtly about, you know, their daily experiences, and there's no dialogue there, it's just kind of, you know, like, okay, this is an ornamental object that can be sold in the gallery, and so on and so forth. And so I was just like, okay, I was looking at your work and I said, okay, this is how it should be. This is how artists should be talking about their games. And when I saw you pay tribute to Tale of Tales, I thought, oh, wait, I must be missing something. Because I felt like, okay, well, when you're fully enveloped in a game, when you're losing, I felt like there's a part of yourself that you lose, and you're superimposing yourself into a projection, and so you're not really thinking critically about what's going on in the game space, and instead you're just sort of like, okay, I'm this character, I'm not me anymore, I'm not thinking about my daily life. And so I was hoping that you could talk to us a little bit about like how we can branch the difference between character immersion and what we can take away from that. That was a lot, I know.
You were hoping. Hoping being the operative word. You know, I don't even know that I'm the right person to answer that question. So, I mean, even among my friends, I'm a phenomenally shallow person, but ridiculously deep when it comes to games. I make them, I talk about them, and I play them. And I'm just doing, in the case of these games, what feels right. I don't see any difference between the path, and there are many playings of the path. Can you guys just give credit to the people who made it? They're sitting right there. It would be awesome. Thank you. I mean, there's so many. There's other people who heard my experience of the path and thought, what? You know, completely. What the hell were you seeing in that game? Or, you know, for instance, how I happen to currently think this has to do with the paper I'm writing. I happen to think this level from Quakey 2 M5 reminds me of poetry, which is probably not, you know, something most people would say, although it is to me. So I don't know. You know, I don't know that I'm the best one to do that, because I feel like in my personal life and in games, it's so interwoven that I'm not even really able to necessarily see the difference. Like right now, I have several games going on. At any given time, you just saw me play one, although I broke the rule in playing the game, and yes, I'm aware of that, though, Harvey, if you looked, you get a point. So I don't know. I don't necessarily know that I'm the best one to answer that question, but I will think about it some, and if I come up with a better answer, which would not be hard, I will let you know.
Thank you.
You're welcome. One more.
First, thank you for this design discussion, especially coming from an emotional perspective, because most game design discussion seems to come more from a technical puzzle perspective.
Yes.
But I guess my question is, you have these really emotional physical object games that you're creating, then you have these commercial games you're also making, and it's like there's a separation between the two, and I'm wondering if, should we be trying to put emotion in commercial games? Do you try to imbue commercial games with emotion, or is it totally separate? Does it have to be separated?
No, of course not. I mean, there is emotion in commercial games. Gandhi, about a year ago, blew up Moscow with a nuke. And I still feel bad about that. That was in Civilization Revolution. I did it. And at my house, the one in Savannah, there's a red disc from 1981 which contains my Wizardry 1 characters. I know the disc doesn't work anymore. I don't even own an Apple II. Maybe it still works. Isn't that crazy? But I won't throw it away because I care deeply about those characters. I have a couple characters in WoW that I love. One is a mage, and she needs to level quickly because she's kind of boring to me without a mount right now. but I care deeply about those characters. I care that I will care amazingly when I destroy John Romero in Civilization Revolution. Just throwing down, friend. It'll be awesome. And I think we do have that. I think we have that connection in games. You know, it's easy to do conflict in games, and games are evolving, right? But there's all kinds of emotion that happens in games. I think the issue, like is there any Boston Red Sox fans in the room? See, talk about emotion in games, right? The Red Sox, baseball is a game. Like, Red Sox fans are crazy. If anybody remembers when we beat Russia in the Olympics in hockey, I still cry when I see that. We have emotion in games. It's just that our perspective is so narrow. And if we embrace games as this gigantic game, we will see tons of emotion in games. We have it. It's there.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Now we're done. Thank you.
Brenda.